and we're going to talk more about this later in the program, but Julian Assange was kicked out of the Ecuadorian embassy in the UK. He was then taken into custody. He was then very quickly tried and found guilty of skipping bail in Great Britain. And I think that carries a 12-month sentence, if I'm not mistaken. In the meantime, it was announced that the U.S. will be extraditing, or at least having a hearing to extradite Assange in about a month. Maybe it's May 15th. And to be clear, the only thing that we know that they are, the grounds in which they are seeking to extradite him, is based on a I'm not sure when the indictment actually happened, but it was the 2010 actions and his involvement in the leaks that Chelsea Manning essentially provided to WikiLeaks. If you will recall, those leaks included footage of U.S. helicopters, I believe, firing on Iraqi civilians.
Right.
In addition, it was a massive trove of defense and the Department of State cables from around the world. And I distinctly remember this because this got a lot of debate at the time, and I was doing a lot of MSNBC at the time, frankly. And the mainstream conventional wisdom was there was nothing that Chelsea Manning provided via WikiLeaks that had any import to the American public or to any country's public. And then, literally, every single day for the next 2 years, there was at least one story based upon, written by the press, based upon those leaks. So it was newsworthy enough that, and this is not an exaggeration, almost every single day there was a story that came out of it. Some of it was in the United States, some of it was around the world. And there was no indication that any U.S. interests were in any way inhibited or infringed upon by these leaks. There was some, I guess, diplomatic embarrassments that took place. Yet, as you know, Chelsea Manning went to prison. Her sentence was commuted to some extent after, frankly, she was treated horribly in prison.
She was tortured.
by President Obama. She is now, my understanding, in jail now for refusing to testify in the grand jury, to the grand jury that I presume is the grand jury that had at least this indictment. Now, I've heard, I when I'm in Vegas, obviously 3 hours behind on East Coast. I got to get up early, get here, have my complete meltdown about the technical issues that I anticipate setting up, and then so I've only had limited time to read into this. The reports I'm hearing on television, anyways, say that the indictment involves Julian Assange helping Chelsea Manning, then Bradley Manning, crack some type of DOD encryption so that Chelsea Manning could get this material. So far, however, from what I've seen of the indictment, and I will concede, I have not seen much, but there is a couple of elements of the indictment that are highly problematic. And putting aside what people think about Julian Assange as an individual or in the functioning of WikiLeaks in the election, people really need to compartmentalize these things, because This is when really bad precedents get set if you are not careful and can't separate the person and other activities they may have been involved with the specific activities that they're being prosecuted for. Right? I mean, Donald Trump, I would love to see him in shackles, but not for something that would, not for the expansion of Social Security, let's say. And so one of the things, or at least two of the things in the indictment, number 19 and 20 of the indictment, it was part of the conspiracy, and to be clear here,
this
Assange
is in the manners and means of the conspiracy. This is page 5 of the indictment, just so people know where you're on.
It was part of the conspiracy that Assange and Manning took measures to conceal Manning as the source of the disclosure of classified records to WikiLeaks, including by removing usernames from the disclosed information and deleting chat logs between Assange and Manning. There is not a single reporter in the country at any outlet, anywhere, who gets leaks from government officials who would not have done that and has not done that.
What's their obligation to do that?
You'll recall that The Intercept failed to fully protect Reality Winner when she leaked the information that Russia had attempted to interfere in the elections, the 2016 elections, and she's now in prison for it. And The Intercept attempted to do as much as they could and didn't go quite far enough. 20, it was part of the conspiracy that Assange encouraged Manning to provide information and records from the departments and agencies of the United States. Undoubtedly, Chelsea Manning approaches WikiLeaks, has some information, and Assange says, yeah, get me more, which is also what every single reporter who has a source for leaks does. So these are very dangerous. Lastly, 21, it was part of the conspiracy that Assange and Manning used a special folder on a cloud Dropbox of WikiLeaks to transmit classified records containing information to the national defense of the United States. These elements of the indictment are highly problematic. And it is crucial for people. That doesn't mean that there aren't elements of the indictments that may be legit, but it is crucial for people to speak out against this, because there are 20 whistleblowers, or we don't know, maybe 40, who have gone to the Democratic committees right now. There may be some who are going to reporters who are blowing the whistle on things that the Trump administration is doing. And every single one of those reporters have an obligation to protect their source and are doing exactly those three things that we just I just read from that.
Can I add just really quickly? I mean, that's to me, that's at least 90% of the story, and why we need to object to this 100%, regardless of what you think of Assange. And I do want to say the 25th on acts of furtherance of the conspiracy, where this is more about the specific, password claim. And I'll just read 25th. On or about March 10th, 2010, Assange requested more information from Manning related to the password. Okay, that sounds at least more in line with what they're claiming. And then he indicated that he'd been trying. I don't know what indicated means, but has had no luck so far. So, the most explosive thing that they're putting forth, while obscuring the really dangerous substance, doesn't appear to have any real weight to it, at least from the indictment. And I just want to add briefly, too, I'm very comfortable with WikiLeaks of 2010 and 2011 are very different than 2016.
Right.
And even if you go I was just doing stories on Haiti recently, and I had forgotten that WikiLeaks was enormously helpful in exposing State Department, sweatshop lobbying in Haiti. I mean, this was a resource against U.S. civilian casualties and all sorts of corruption across the globe. And we really need to remember the value that they did provide, and also what this reflects, and I'll say it later, about what's happening in Ecuador as well. So this is a big problem, regardless of what you think
Right.
of Assange.